impact in our society or not? Do we have a kind of accountability consciousness? Is our governance kind of changing at the grassroots level or not? So it means that if you critically analyze all these things, you may wonder that it's not very simple to say that only educating students and only educating people is the main goal of higher education. So there is more. So that takes me to this next slide, where I want you to pay attention to this fact that there are many invisible contributions. One is a visible contribution, that we have so much of gross enrollment ratio, we have so many colleges, we have so much universities. That's a visible contribution which you can quantify. But when we say higher education or any education, at even in the secondary education or the primary education, there is an invisible contribution also. And that invisible contribution is that how this education system is composed of, complexity of these values, norms and cultures. And these elements are so embedded in the whole process that it's very difficult to kind of separate these values, norms and cultures from the less tangible aspects of higher education. And that's why these debates are going on. I said in the very beginning that every now and then universities and colleges are in a debate of discussion that how are we going to make ourselves very relevant in today's time when the times are changing. And at the same time, we are being questioned whether really the higher education provides opportunities. Do we really provide opportunities? Do we really work on the caste system? Do higher education really remove the inequalities in the society, or we are doing opposite, or we are contributing to the reproduction of social inequalities? For example, how many Indian citizens make it to the higher education? Do our equity system, our poverty system, do allow children to come to secondary or the higher level education? So there are always these debates on opportunities, and at the same time the debates on inequalities. And in that whole process, higher education system, we definitely need to be very careful that higher education is not only the standalone component. It has its a kind of a very good relationship with the higher secondaries, the secondary school education system, the primary school education system, and it has to be done in a very integrated manner. And I think that these days we are seeing a lot of changes. We are seeing the shift towards the national education policy. We are seeing a lot of changes, and the whole stakeholder concept is going on in a very confusing mode. There are students who are asking that whether the 3-year degree was relevant or a 4-year degree was relevant. Universities are asking these questions, that am I purely a teaching university? Am I a skill university, or am I a research universities? And in that kind of chaos and confusion, I believe that the experts in the higher education system, all of you and all of us, have to, I think, work some time period for us. So it means that there is a very important thing, that we need to understand that the unresolved nature of this debate, because the debates which are going on, it suggests the complexity and importance of this aspect in understanding the contributions of higher education. And it also kind of, it assesses and understands the full scope of higher education contribution. I think that we have not been done justice with this. We have a lot of scope. Our scope goes beyond the classrooms. Our scope goes beyond the annual examinations and rating and evaluation of students. It goes beyond convocation complexes where degrees are imparted. And that is why a final statement which comes out of this discussion is that higher education contributions which we see, it's not a one dimensional phenomenon, but it's very intricate, it's very multifaceted. And higher education cannot live in vacuum. You cannot live alone vacuum. You cannot see, you have to make your connections with the system around you. We have a lot of factors which influence you, and because of that you may
போறீங்க எங்களை
also
விட்டு
be
போட்டு
influencing
அங்கதானே
others.
அங்கதானே
uh,
கிட்ட வந்து அப்படியே
uh,
இது அடிச்சிட போறாங்க
am I audible?
வித்தியாசமான ஆளு
Am I audible? I think there is some mic is
எதனால
on.
சொல்லிட்டு
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, so
ஆமாங்க
if
என்ன
you
தெரியுமா
please put
பண்ணிட்டேன்
mic
இன்னைக்கு
off, there is
நக்சல்
some
வந்து
discussion going on in
லைட்டா ட்ரிம் பண்ண
background.
போறேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒன்னா நம்பர் இது மாத்திருந்தேன் என்னோட ட்ரிம்மர்ல ஒன்னா நம்பர் இது மாத்திருந்தானா
Can somebody put the
நான் வந்து
mic
3ல
off?
வச்சு பண்ணுவேன் வழக்கமா புடக்கன்னு போட்டேங்க எனக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி ஆயிடுச்சு அதுக்கப்புறம் அப்படி லைட்டா அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணி சுத்தர வச்சு அப்படி அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணி விட்டேன் ஆனா எனக்கு நல்லா தான் இருக்கும் மோஸ்ட்லி எனக்கு மிச்சம் எடுத்தா
So
எல்லாருமே
it
மேடி
means
மாதிரி
that
இல்லங்க ஒரு நெல்லிக்காய் சாப்பிட்டேங்க அது மாட்டிக்கிச்சுங்க
please turn off your mics. Yeah, thank you very much. So it means that when
பல்லே குத்தக்கூடாதுன்னு நினைப்பேன் பல்லு குத்துறதே பிடிக்காது
can we please put the mic off?
நானே டாக்டர்
Yeah, thank you very much. So we were discussing that the higher education institutions, we do not live in isolation. We need to understand that we live in a system where we are getting influenced by our surroundings, and at the same time higher education is also imparting, we are also impacting the others. So we need to come out of this cocoon mentality and need to understand that our role is more multidimensional, our role is more multifaceted, and we need to go into these detailing concepts of higher education. We all have seen that during COVID-19 it was a huge challenge, and higher education was also impacted, and it reminded us that we need to kind of work on our practical skills. We saw that how we shifted to this Zoom, and how we shifted to this online meets. And I think if today I'm giving an online lecture here, it's all because that particular online education was possible because this COVID-19 was an eye opener for us.
कॉपी चेक करना था.
Please turn off your mics because there's a lot of disturbance going on in the background. Yeah. So it means that in many countries, there have been many educational policies which have been emphasizing the social and economic impact. And because of that, universities have become closer. And why we have become closer means we have to show our usefulness, we have to show that we can make an impact. We are showing that we are very relevant, and we are also showing that only economic contribution of higher education is not our role, because non-economic contributions have been unrecognized. Let me take you, for example, if I say, do our higher education institutions focus on education? Yes, the answer can be yes. But how many of us are translating it into employment? How many of us are translating into a research which is helping the common masses? How much of our higher education is having an impact on the societal issues? And is our innovation making the life of people at the grassroots level easier? What is our civic engagement? What is our public service? So it means that it also tells you that along with the challenges, it also tells you that higher education has a lot of scope. And that is why if you have a look at the outside universities, if you see the top 10 universities in the world, you will see that there is definitely a kind of an in-house exercise which all these universities have been doing, and they have been focusing on different things. It means that we need to also see that a proper budgeting has to be done. The universities, you also need to be given a kind of an autonomy. A common curriculum cannot be made for all. What is being taught at the southern part of the India may not be so relevant at the northern part of the India. The kind of issues which people are facing in Jammu and Kashmir and the problems which are facing in some other part of India are entirely different. So it means that we need to culturally tailor the kind of concepts which are having. And I have, for example, given here an example of University of Oxford, that what kind of impact they are making in the society, and at the same time how much budgeting is being done in this particular regard. So here we need to find these missing links. We are all doing pretty well in terms of the normal expectations which University Grants Commission is having from you. For example, uh, but higher education institutions, we can also contribute to the discussions which are happening at the higher level. For example, we I've taken an example of university in South Africa. They did a strategy in which they addressed a very grave problem, a problem on food security. So it means that we need to think also on that lines. Do higher education institutions have to come up for the rescue of people? It means that this university's example shows us that, what about the population studies departments, what about the PRC departments, what about the social work departments, or the departments of economics which all the universities have? If we will not be addressing the common concerns of a society, so it means that in coming years we may become obsolete. People would not come to the universities for education because they would find it irrelevant, and governments are definitely going to slash down the budgets because they may not feel that we are too much relevant. We also have another example in which we have seen that how many universities have come up with some community extension activities to support women as change agents and future leaders. See here, we have 17 sustainable development goals, and all of us, irrespective of the fact that which field we belong to, irrespective of the fact that whether we belong to mathematics, we belong to physics, we belong to the core sciences, core humanities, core social sciences, we all can contribute towards these sustainable development goals. The only thing is that we need to revisit what we are doing and what we ought need to do. So we can always find that kind of connection. I have mostly seen and heard people debating that my field has no contribution. I cannot make any contribution to SDGs because I am not relevant. But I don't believe that this statement is true. We all can contribute. Yes, some departments can be very relevant. For example, if I talk about the profession of social work, we can be very relevant to all these sustainable development goals. But we may have engineering department who may contribute more towards maybe the sustainable development goal 7, which talks about affordable and clean energy, which talks about smart sustainable cities and communities. And maybe my department of earth sciences can contribute more towards life on land, life below water. So it means that we all need to understand and dig for that missing links which we have forgot, because we have been socialized in such a manner that we believe that our role with the society is limited. Now, so let me take you to the main research question, that how we can embrace all these multiple contributions, that how we need to take a step two. It's not only knowledge transmission, we need to create, we need to transfer this knowledge, and we need to think of how my knowledge is contributing towards the well-being of individuals, the well-being of society, and the sustainable development. So it means that I need to ask a question, that who are we connected to? Am I only relevant to my students? Am I only relevant to my graduates? Am I only relevant to my faculty? But I think that I am relevant to the entire society, because when I say stakeholder concept, who is the stakeholder in higher education institution? The stakeholder list is a very large list. My primary stakeholders can be the students, the employers, the funding agencies, the University Grants Commission, the various institutions. But I believe that the one of the most important stakeholder of any higher education institution is the civil society to which you belong. And that's why when I say the civil society, I need to think of the social structure, the occupational structure, the civic participation. I need to also have an understanding on the health outcome, the technological processes, the social conflicts, the social change, the change in the dynamics of family system. So it means that we do have a lot of role, but we don't have to get worried that that if I go into this third stakeholder concept, I may miss on my teaching and research, which is my primary role. And at the same time, I am never in this favor of placing too much burden on the shoulders of higher education alone. We can only be, so we need to take a, we need to just take a break and understand that we cannot be the only one responsible for everything. And higher education doesn't have any magical wine that it's we don't have any magical stick which will bring results automatically. We are just a node, we are just a hub, we are just a point. And at the same time, we can argue that secondary education is more important because of its size, because of its participation rate, because not everyone makes it to higher education. There are a lot of people who just drop out from the system only after their secondary education. So it means that there is not that debate which is important, but the responsibilities on secondary education system and the responsibilities on higher education system are equally important. And that's why we should not be afraid and believe that too much roles and responsibilities are coming on the shoulders of higher education institutions. So we should find, we should not think about higher education as a system, a very technical system in which you give inputs and you will get output. It's not any technocratic, it's not any system analysis game. It's a process. It requires time. It requires the conducive environment of learning, growing, transforming. If you have to make a new knowledge, you need it takes a lot of time. It's not any computer programming exercise in which you can control. Let's talk about the political scenario, the global scenario, the discussions, the debates. So it means that higher education is not simply a mechanical game where you put in certain kind of inputs and the results are in favor of you. No, you're dealing with uh, a group of adults who have their own thinking process. They are into that debating process. And that's why, and that is why we need to understand that there can be two important dimensions of higher education: axiological and praxeological. The first one is what we do. The first one is what higher education does. It basically applies to our applied knowledge, the skills, the norms, the value statuses, legitimization. The second important dimension of higher education is actually the practice, how we do it, how we transmit, how we transfer, how we transformation, and how we create. And that is why here we need to understand that the central objects of higher education activities, we need to understand that this knowledge as a central object, but with knowledge, skills very important. So it means that we need to expand the notion of knowledge to include skills, framing them as a form of practical applied knowledge. So it means that these debates you might also be experiencing in your own institutions, where every now and then you are being asked to make your courses more skill oriented. And there are a lot of disciplines, the faculty from literature, the faculty from any other field, in a confusion that how to make their courses skill oriented courses. So that is why, as uh, when all this debate is going on, we need to understand that our perspective is not one dimensional, it's not unidimensional. Our perspectives are multidimensional. And see, when I say higher education system, these are our perspectives. We shift from an economic perspective to a sociological, to a political, to a more philosophical, to a historical and a research perspective. So let me take you quickly to all these perspectives. Number one, and a very common perspective of higher education is that a very simple exercise. Education is an individual investment, and when you invest in it, you give benefits to the society. People believe that those who get education get good jobs, and good jobs bring you good money, and they believe that that is why higher education institution is important, because it brings you more money, it brings more money to the society. And this is what we teach our children. Padhoge nahi to you will not get jobs. If you don't study, you will not get jobs. So can you think of how harm we do when we give these statements? If you don't study, you will not get jobs. So the entire scenario is economic perspective. This has been traditionally going on for a long time period कि हम economic perspective के बगैर कोई और चीज के बारे में सोचते नहीं है, because we believe that koi bhi individual, we all human beings, we accumulate this human capital with a range of knowledge and skill, and it leads to us higher income, it gives me good status, and it helps a society to increase its economic growth. Please do stop me in between if you find you want to ask something in between, and please do tell me, am I audible? Because in this online mode sometimes you feel as if you're lost in the whole discussion.
You are audible.
Okay, 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 okay. So it means
Audible.
that
Audible.
okay, so it means that this economic perspective has to be there. There is no, I will not say that economic perspective is not important, but we need to focus on the other aspects also, and change our narrative that you work hard and you'll get more income. How many of us think that if you study, you will make an impact in the society? If you study, problems of poor people can be eradicated. If you study, you will live in a very peaceful environment. How many times we make it to our engineering? If students go to IITs, we tell them IITs bring you good packages. We never tell them that after becoming an engineer from an IIT, you may be able to make Delhi cleaner. You may be able to make it, air quality can be improved, and it's a very big goal. But unfortunately, we do have a cocoon mentality, and we do not let others think in terms of other perspectives. For example, this approach has influenced our policy for many decades because it's very simple. It's individual, education, economy. So these are three very important things. But we need to also see that this economic dominance in discourse has to be changed, and we need to focus on what I told you earlier, non-economic contributions which the society is making, and that's why it needs to be balanced. And this balance can be done when we recognize, appreciate the broader non-economic dimensions. For example, the societal benefits, the cultural enrichments, the personal growth. For example, when people get educated, there should be lesser crimes, there should be lesser deviance. Our education system should be such that we should be able to value our culture. We should not copy. I see a lot of changes in our own infrastructure in Kashmir. We are copying the kind of housing pattern which are outside. It's not suitable to us climate because our climatic conditions are entirely different. I believe that we do not understand that every culture has its own positives, its own negatives, and my education should contribute. So my architect, if that is not protected, if the architect of my place dilutes over a period of time, I believe that my architect education is not protecting the culture which needs to be there. Then coming to the social perspective, So we all know that the sociological perspective of higher education is that when you transmit knowledge, when you transmit skill, you enable an individual to take a position in this social and occupational structure, because values, rules, norms, it helps a society to maintain a balance. And this is a very important component and perspective of higher education, and there is no comparison. Economic perspective, economic contribution will be there, but it has to be supplemented by the sociological perspective. For example, not going, or if you see all these things, that you may see the Durkheim's concept of internalization of social norms, rules, discipline, and it has been way back said that through education there is a collective solidarity in a society, because education teaches knowledge and skill, not only for your bread and butter, but for to make a good social order in the society. These days we have seen good discussions going on at various places, that these days people do not have that resilience, we do not have accommodation for each other. What is happening to our education? I think that our forefathers, the old generations, they had more tolerance. What is going to my higher education, that why are people becoming so intolerant? Why there is a lot of deviance, why there's a lot of crimes happening? So it means that somewhere my education is not giving due importance to the sociological perspective. Then let me talk you to another thing. When I say, international social science did a lot of extensive research on how selection into higher education works. So I told you in the very beginning also that we need to answer this question: do we remove inequalities in a society, or the higher education contributes to more of inequalities? For example, a big question for social science is that to what extent we reproduce inequality, and to what extent we provide a social lift, because how many students are able to make up to higher education. So let you take the economic and social perspectives. You will see that the social benefits of education are more, focusing on quality of civic life, reducing crime rates, decrease reliance on government support. And if you see the individual benefits, higher salaries, more work benefits, good health, good life expectancy, personal and professional mobility. But if you see the social benefits of education, they are more. Then, uh, continuing with these social benefits, you would see that uh, you are less likely to indulge in antisocial activities. It's a big benefit which this education brings. So let me stop here, because when I say economic perspective or a social perspective, we need equal importance on political perspective, because this higher education has been critical in nation building and might be conceptualized as a political institution of the state. Indeed, most contributions of higher education we have discussed, they have a political dimension. And we need to understand this political perspective brings an important dimension into discussion, that is the concept of power. Like, uh, you might have seen that sometimes you submit a research project to some funding organization, and you want this to be done in a particular manner, but you may be given directions that this is not fitting in our concept of research, or our it's not aligning with our mission and vision. And in this case, sometimes as a researcher, as a university teacher, as a college teacher, you sometimes want a particular voice to be heard which you believe is oppressed, and you want this research to come up with some grassroots realities, so that there should be some policy changes, there should be some schemes for those people whose voices are unheard, they're oppressed. But again, do we really kind of are given that scope of working on those fundamental lines or not? And it means that we cannot simply negate, we cannot simply ignore the political perspective. We definitely have to bring in our university systems, and we need to proactively support these things in terms of your teaching, research, and knowledge, and that will really made a lot of contribution. We do never make our audience to think in that particular lines where they can make a critical analysis of a particular scheme. Is it really making benefit or not? So keeping in view all these things, we also know that we have some philosophical pedagogical perspective also. This can be also discussed on, but not very important here. I may take you to the historical perspective also. Herein we have seen that there are different kinds of eras. If you see the Napoleonic type, in which it was seen as training for careers, then we see creating and maintaining knowledge, enabling students personal development, and preparing students as civic actors. So each of these missions have both implications, individual implications as well as the collective or social implications. And this concept of citizenship unites all these four purposes or roles of higher education. And that is why when I say the last one, the preparing students as civic actors, this is something which may take us towards a larger role of universities, that is called as the third pillar of university, which comes other than teaching and research. For example, when we go to this educational perspective, we need to understand a very important thing here, that the research, one research which is done and within the universities but may not be so meaningful for the society. There are a pretty number of research institutions today, when they support any research project, their question is, how is this research going to contribute to the society? I remember the Department of Clinical Biochemistry doing a project with us at the Department of Social Work, because their funders said that it has to be a inter-multidisciplinary group of professionals. If you are working on a particular project and the government is giving a lot of money to you, it has to bring some benefits to the society. And that's why lot of your science friends would be discussing that how science and society is related to each other. And that is why, as higher education institutions, we need to think of these three pillars: teaching, which we have been doing on long back; research, which all of us are doing; the third important thing, the service, the direct engagement of institutions with local communities and society, needs to be understood in a proper manner. Because in every higher education institution, there are few departments, few disciplines which have a direct engagement with the society, be it the Department of Women's Studies, Sociology, Social Work, Lifelong Learning. But most of the departments do limit to only two pillars, that is teaching and research. And that is why, if you see here, if you have to make a proper impact in a society, if you have to bring on increasing the happiness index in a society, all these three pillars need to be taken simultaneously. Yes, there are barriers which I'm going to take in my other slides, in which I tell you that why the third pillar is not so much popular, or the third pillar is not so much appreciated. Why do we have a reservation from the faculty side? Why do we have a reservation from the university side, that we do not appreciate, understand that the third pillar is also very, very important, and all of us can contribute, irrespective of the fact whether you can contribute directly or indirectly. So that is, every higher education institution has a public role. A public role because it's seen as your contribution to social equity, in which you can improve the access, in which you can increase the participation. We know the big firms, the big corporates. All of us have been seen discussing corporate social responsibility. We do always say that these Tatas, Reliance, Ambanis, big firms, big business giants, we say that they have a corporate social responsibility. But how many of us ask this question, that we also have a university social responsibility? We do always have the tendency of shifting our responsibility from one particular sector to other sector. Here also, as universities, our role also has to be seen from that perspective. जिस तरह से एक कॉर्पोरेट का रोल है, उसकी सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है, on the same way universities also have a university social responsibility. And we need to be very careful celebrating some days, celebration of a girl child day, celebration of a women empowerment session, celebration of world environment day is not going to make your responsibility over. The responsibility is more. We are just only touching the surface by having these sessions, having a 1 day program, having a 1 day workshop. It's not sufficient. It means that we need to do more, because the social responsibilities are more, and we cannot simply have these cosmetic touch. Sometimes you just give a cosmetic touch. If you really have to bring, you need to make our immune system better, so that we'll be able to perform properly. And that is our public role. So here we need to shift our attention, our focus from a passive recipient model. We should not be passive recipients, but we should be active engager who engages into a kind of a process in which we are not only transmitting knowledge, but we are also making a transformative journey where students play a central role in determining their paths, highlighting the importance of students self-determining agency. And it should suggest that learners should have the autonomy and freedom to actively participate and influence their educational experiences. So it implies that the outcome of higher education should empower individuals to exercise agency in societal context. Or the overall philosophy emphasizes a holistic view of education, that goes beyond the traditional focus on knowledge acquisition to more personal development, self-determination, and societal agency. And this aligns with contemporary educational paradigms that value the socio-emotional and personal dimensions of learning. I deliberately put this section of the context of J&K questions as pointers for a critical discussion, because I thought that let me talk about the higher education problems which we are facing in this part, and we can relate to each other. For example, when we see these days a kind of issue here also, that when our educational institutions, we also operate within our own confines, sometimes disconnected from the broader societal context and needs. And despite of efforts to bridge the gap, sometimes higher education institutions are often seen to reflect and perpetuate existing social hierarchies and social structures and power structures. And that is why uh, we need to see that, does our higher education system serve as an extension of the social order? Are we reinforcing the existing hierarchies? What about the power dynamics within the society? For example, what are the admission processes? How are the faculty recruitments done? Are our institutional practices promoting certain favorable certain groups? It means that we are also kind of bringing more problems and bringing more inequalities. And when this disconnect happens, when there are a kind of widened disparities, does it also hamper the transformative potential of higher education in J&K? Because if I see the higher education in J&K, it should serve as a vehicle for social mobility. We have a lot of tribal groups. We have a specific Gujar Bakarwal population. They do have to kind of, they are always on mobile, they are always on a move. And sometimes we need to understand that, uh, do we really offer them that kind of social mobility for empowerment or not? Because many of them may not be able to kind of get a place in the higher education. So a very important crisis these days are, which universities and colleges are facing, is declining enrollments, and that diminishing interest among young students. I think that many of you also might be facing the same thing. Why this is happening? So if this trend raise, this kind of trend is going on in the same manner, it may raise serious concerns for future viability of, sustainability of our higher education institutions. Do we need to close down our universities because we are not able to address the issues of access, quality, and making higher education more responsive to the needs and aspirations of the local students? And that's why we need to kind of, we need to shift our attention from simply viewing higher education as a means of acquiring skill, but we need to understand it as a tool for societal transformation. And this whole view of education should be addressing the critical consciousness, the civic engagement, and social change. I believe that that is the only thing in which we will be able to make certain changes in our society. Let me take you, just this slide, because in my own university also, and in my own region also, these days, every educational department is being linked with innovation, entrepreneurship. So sometimes it also disturbs me as a teacher that if all the students have to really become entrepreneurs, then why we are offering courses? Can this entrepreneurship capabilities, or the kind of entrepreneurial aptitudes can be given maybe even after high school? Do we really need to waste then the public money in colleges and universities? So it means that there has been a lot of discussions also. Sometimes these innovations, there are also a lot of theories behind it, and sometimes these narratives, which have been promoted by few giant corporations, it benefits to a few particular. It's a misleading statement. It may also be seen as a catalyst for inequality, poverty, and exploitation. And that's why the concepts of compassion, empathy, justice, they need to be bring at the table of discussion, center table of discussion. And we need to see that, uh, with innovation and with marketing, with technology, we need to focus on the civic spirit, the solidarity, which is kind of depleting every day. We do not, this is one of the defects of this market driven society, wherein these values are not important. And that's why some of the courses really these days are coming at the stage of vanish. There are certain courses where there are no takers. People find that there are no jobs available in it because our whole concept is of jobs, and we do not think beyond that. That is why the, a call needs to be done, a call for re-evaluation of how non-economic contributions are valued. And this could be crucial for a more holistic understanding of the role of higher education in a society. And that is why, if you see these days, some of the initiatives which government of India right now is taking, for example, a concept which is launched by the Ministry of HRD, that's Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. It has been seen as a transformative change in rural development by the active participation of higher education institutions. Because there has been a pretty long time period that we have been shifting our responsibilities to others. But as a growing and a large sector of country, in the very beginning I showed you the statistics that we are a good, we have a good data available with us. And that's why HEIs need to foster social responsibility and community engagement in your vision and mission. Just read your vision and mission today of your institutions and see that, do we really have some components of social and community responsibility there in our vision and mission? So this you can also relate to the National Education Policy 2020 transformative framework. Let me read it out. The purpose of the education system is to develop good human beings, capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper, and creative imagination with sound ethical moorings and values. It aims at producing engaged, productive, contributing citizens for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged by our constitution. I always see this statement as a statement which answers our questions. Nowhere in the statement it's written that it's for skills, it's for jobs, it's only for economic gain. But the national education policy says that the purpose of our education system should be, we need to have those human beings who have that compassion, empathy of helping others. And we need to, we definitely have to be a very productive society, a contributing society. We need to also have a very inclusiveness in our approach, and that is what our constitution has long back said. And if we just translate on these things, we will see that there have been some key principles of community engagement. One is that community engagement should not be limited to few social science disciplines. And second is that the evaluative system, students should be given community mandatory hours, and it should be credited, it should be put on their scorecards, it should be valued. And there's a big reservation from teachers. They say that our third mission of our work is not being paid, it's not being valued. API scores have taken that, you will see no scope in API scoring vis-a-vis this community and social engagement. Why should I go and work on society? It's not giving me anything. It's better to write a research paper. It's better to improve my citations. It's better to go in a conference. It's better to have more PhDs, because the civic engagement right now is not scoring. It's not giving any benefit to the teachers. So we need to provide credit to teachers for civic engagement. If you put it equally important in the API scores, we all know that our caste promotions, we all know that our career advancements, it has focus on teaching, it has focus on research, but we do not have any section which puts a clear cut idea on how was your civic engagement, how has been your research and education helping society. Then we need to also have to make certain changes in the curricula, that we need to also bring in more. I said in the very beginning that sometimes getting your students know the rural phenomenon, how, because not everyone comes from that area. There are a lot of people who have never seen that situation. We can only, sometimes we just only have read it, tribal camps, tribal people, but we have not seen there. So it means the more grassroots reality sessions need to be done. So revising curriculums, courses as per the kind of local scenario is very important. And when I say practitioners, as teachers, you can always see that people at the grassroots level can also become, those practitioners. So we may have a farming community who may have their own understanding of agricultural production. So any agricultural university can have some sessions with these practitioners as teachers, because being into practice is way far more important than only just having that classroom knowledge and limiting your knowledge within those four walls. And some of the innovative thing which I think many higher education institutions have been doing these days is those DYD courses, design your degrees, wherein you can have social innovation projects by students. It can be encouraged, it needs to be encouraged. Instead of taking a theoretical for credit paper, can we also give some social innovation projects to our students, which can be engaged, which can be appreciated. And so these are some of the things which are relevant from compulsory engagement courses, that this will appreciate, the students will appreciate the rural society, the divide. The social media has created kind of a divide. People will kind of respect and understand their local economy and livelihood. They will have a kind of connection with what their local bodies, rural or urban bodies, are doing. Interactions with self-help groups, interactions with these hand holding programs with SHGs can be really helpful. Visit to this Narega project sites, conducting these analysis of Search Bharat Abhiyan. I think that the social action projects can be taken within these areas. Visiting schools, understanding why there are dropouts, why children are out of school. Can higher education system come up with an innovative model so that these out of school children can be mainstream? So agricultural students can also work with, you can have always that technology driven society, technology driven high core practitioners working with those who practice at the grassroots level. We still have in our society, we still have a lot of traditional knowledge which needs to be documented. It's not documented. That the West is now coming, the West is now taking examples. They are taking our those traditional knowledge and implementing, because they know that the value of traditional knowledge is very important. But unfortunately, we are copying things from other societies, from other regions, which do not have any value, which are very, their life is very limited. And that is why these things can become a part of our learning methods. So we need to also make changes in the learning and teaching methods, that more participatory methods, community dialogues can be done. Field visits very important. We can have them as a very important thing. Traditionally, research style needs to be changed. We need to also bring in more qualitative, more ethnographic research work included. And these are some of the areas which I felt can be common areas for all of us. When I say environmental education, agriculture, forestry, sanitation, waste management, value-based education, climate change. Is it only the responsibility of people who belong to the earth sciences and geology department? But it impacts everyone. Climate change impacts a rural girl, a rural adolescent girl, because when there is a climate change, there is a water shortage. And when there is water shortage, she's forced to drop out from the school. So it's connected with each other. And there are many such examples along with it. And these are some of the slides which I'm just only just making a reference to it. So finally, I would conclude by saying that the societal challenges which right now our country is facing, we need to address such issues by making a lot of, we not only need to inform these problems by the top notch science and technology. That is there. I never deny this fact that we need to have a robust science and technology, but all these things need to be very deeply rooted in the ethos of our society. We cannot put focus on only one area. We have seen that these days there was a time period when a lot of focus was only on the science and technology, and we would believe that science and technology will bring changes in the society. But we have seen that with more science and technology, maybe there are more gaps. There is much intolerance in the society, and that's why the NET 2020 recommendation says that Solutions have to be not only informed by this top notch science and technology research, but it should be rooted in a deep understanding of the social sciences and humanities and various socio-cultural and environmental dimensions of the nation. And if facing and addressing these challenges will require high quality interdisciplinary research across the fields. This is this this is also a learning for us that understanding each other's profession very important. How to go into more networking is very important. uh, Working in silos has wasted a lot of time. We can contribute each other. For example, if I've seen anthropology students and the students of women studies, the students from gender studies, that they really can make a lot of impact. They can make a lot of contribution. So the fields need to work together. So if you have to work on a problem, why can't agricultural graduates and social workers work together on a phenomenon which is right now creating problems to our farmers? Why suicides are increasing? How can we make economics relevant to them? Why is that there are a lot of farmers who are in debt crisis and they go for suicides? It's a big problem. I think that our universities, our higher education institutions need to think on those lines also. It's not only GDP, it's not only increasing money, it's not only growth and development, it's also addressing the many other issues which right now we are experiencing. So this is all from my side. This is my understanding of how higher education can contribute towards the society. So these are some of the glimpses where you've seen education. We need to come out of the boundaries and learn from the society. There are many things which can be done like this. Students can be made part of all certain practices. Bridging gaps is very, very important. Thank you very much, and I hope that I made some sense. And these can be these are always debatable. It's there are no final words. We are in that evolving process where we need to ask a lot of questions to each other, how to make ourselves relevant and how to make ourselves making some contribution to the society. So we still have time for some discussion so that I can also learn from your own experiences in your own places.
Shazia Manzoor, Professor Shazia Manzoor, really, you have delivered a very good information to the participants. Uh, we are very much thankful to you.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope that
Interactive session.
yeah, there's a question.
Is there a from the audience participants?
I think some sir,
Moment
I think
is for
something
the
has raised.
participants. If there is a question, you please address.
Yeah. Yes, Ritu ma'am, please.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, it was a very thought-provoking lecture. एंड आपने एक पॉइंट रखा था कि टीचिंग में हम बहुत सारी चीजें करते हैं और स्टूडेंट्स से इंटरेक्ट करते हैं और टीचिंग रिसर्च सब सारी चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं हमारे टीचिंग सेक्शन में. लेकिन मैम आपने एक पॉइंट ये भी रखा कि जिस तरीके से हम लोग कम्युनिटी वर्क करते हैं, जस्ट लाइक हायर एजुकेशन में हम लोग एनएसएस एनसीसी के अंतर्गत ये सारी चीजें करते हैं, तो उसको भी उतना ही वैल्यूएबल क्राइटेरिया मिलना चाहिए. ये मैम बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट रखा आपने एंड टोटली एग्री विथ यू. सो थैंक यू सो मच मैम फॉर अ वंडरफुल लेक्चर.
Yes, Ritu ma'am, I believe that if we have been doing cosmetic touches, because we have been doing community engagements, because some of our professional kind of obligations are there. But if we make it as important as you have the other sector, it will definitely bring a lot of change. If you give these small social innovation projects to the students and make them understand your term paper is equally important as you have this project, I believe that it's definitely going to bring a lot of results.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Joey,
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you very much.
Uh, Shazia, thank you very much.
Thank
You
you,
can see
thank you.
we are discussing with the participants. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
sir. Okay, thank you very much.
Participants में ठीक है में
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही सर।
कम से कम 2 लोग रिपोर्ट प्रेजेंट करते हैं। अब आ रही मेरी आवाज?
Yes, sir.
अब तो आ रही होगी।
Yes, sir.
जी, मैं कह रहा हूँ कि कल एक मेल और एक फीमेल, वो कल का फीडबैक जो 7 डेज लेक्चर्स हैं, तो वो वैलिडिटी सेशन में ये प्रेजेंट करना है। तो प्लीज वॉलंटियर योरसेल्फ कि कौन इसको करना चाहेगा।
Sir, I will do. Dr. Lubna CTC from Aurangabad, I'll do that.
डॉक्टर
Lubna CTC, sir. Lubna CTC.
okay, Dr. Siddiqui, okay. Then from the male partner, G, who will be there tomorrow from the male partner? मेल पार्टिसिपेंट्स में कौन प्रेजेंट करेगा?
Sir, I think it is on 28th, right?
हाँ, ये कल तो नहीं है, वो तो मंडे को 28 है, वैलिडिटी है।
Sir, I would also like to give my feedback.
Good name?
Ritu Singh. RWT Ritu Singh.
Okay, Ritu Singh. Anyone else? ठीक है, फिर डॉक्टर सिद्दीकी, डॉक्टर रितु सिंह, the feedback sessions. Okay.
Okay, sir.
एमसीक्यू कितने बजे होगा सर?
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
एमसीक्यू
ये 3 बजे से होगा। कल आपको लिंक भेज दिया जाएगा, 3 बजे से होगा ये।
आज ही होगा ना?
ठीक है सर।
28th on 28th of the October.
आज नहीं होगा एमसीक्यू सर?
तो आज हम वैलिडिटी कर रहा हूँ, वैलिडिटी तो 28 को है। अभी 28 तारीख को 3 सेशन होने हैं।
जी तो एमसीक्यू तो आज ही होना है ना सर?
हेलो,
वो आज ही होना है।
ओके सर,
ओके सर।
ओके, ठीक है, तो फिर मुलाकात होती है। ओके, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू।
हेलो,
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर।
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you.